Hi, welcome to this video. So, we are going over Snowbreak, and I believe Seasun is changing the gacha space for better or for worse. I'm not entirely sure, but there are plenty of things in this game that deserve to be looked at. I don't want every game to become Snowbreak, just because that would defeat the purpose of Snowbreak itself, but also there are plenty of things in this game where I don't want every game to apply, but I'm gonna mention all the things that I want it, to apply to every other game. That's why I'm doing this video. So, the things I'm going to be going over is the changes to the game since launch. There have been plenty of changes since pretty much like when they were about to be end of service, which is about like month 2 or 3 after the game release. Man, the game actually really almost died, and they revived it quite a bit, as you can see in the sensory report, which I'll be showing on screen somewhere, whatever. And then there's also a huge niche that Snowbreak has filled. I believe Snowbreak is actually like a one-of-a-kind game, unlike other games where they're kind of like really similar to each other. Snowbreak doesn't really have that almost at all, outside of the fact that it is a gacha game. And the last bit I want to get into is how easy the game is to like just play. It's a really good side game if you really just want to chill and have fun. You don't need to really get too strong unless if you want to do some of the endgame stuff, but most of the endgame stuff you don't have to be uber strong, as I've done in previous videos where like maxing your character is not actually that hard. You're probably just gonna be time gapped, and maybe like you just need to do events a little bit more, so on and so forth. But the grinding of this game is basically almost non-existent. So yeah, I think I'm just gonna go into my first section. Okay, so let's go over the changes of the game since launch. There are plenty of changes that actually has happened since launch, but these are the key ones that I'd like to really look at. If there's anything I've really forgot, it might be in the description, or we might be chatting it in the comments below. But anyway, so we'll go for it. So, skins. The amount of skins and what the skins look like in the game has drastically changed for, the better, I think. For me, it's really good. And I think now they're trying to really just push skins to be their main monetization, which I'm really happy about. It's not really about the gacha aspect of it anymore, just because they also did a gacha change as well. So let's actually move on to that. The gacha change where it's going to be 100% chance to get weapon and character for 100 pulls. So if you get 16k gems, or I forgot what it's called in Snowbreak, and you're pretty much just buying the character or buying the weapon. You're not really like gachaing. You still are. Obviously, you're still gachaing, but it's a lot better to calculate like which characters you can get and can't get, and the weapons you can and can't get as well. Including that, there's actually a pity system for standard characters and standard weapons, which is actually really helpful to early game players that don't have much characters. All the standard banner characters are actually pretty decent. I'd recommend Fenny and Lyfe at the moment. They're still really good right now. Lyfe doesn't really have too much of a playstyle at the moment in terms of the meta. Fenny does. With her new, anniversary unit, they actually pair pretty well together, so Fenny's pretty good. Yao is still pretty good with Maxier and Tess. That's really it. Anyways, I don't really want to go over meta. The other things that I'd like to mention about the change in the game, they're doing a lot more videos from Bilibili and YouTube. The live streams that they're doing is actually really well done, except they're only in CN, which kind of does suck. So if you want to get pretty much news, you kind of just go to Reddit or any YouTuber that covers news. I don't really cover too much news, but I'm more doing opinion pieces. And yeah, so the other one is actually the age rating of this game changed from, I don't know what it was before, but it's now 17 plus, so they are more free to do more assets. As you know, like the skins have quite a bit more assets, including with that. Actually, they've been changing the models as well to have more assets like the feet and jiggle physics and so on and so forth. Just plenty of those things. And yeah, I think those changes to the game has been actually really amazing, and the amount of events and rewards you get, stuff like that. How much communication they do as well, I think that's a really good change. Ever since they began the game, there's been way more communication. The story is completely changing that we know, and also obviously with the CN cast leaving, like most of them leaving, we're actually getting a new set in, and then they're actually gonna be voicing pretty much the main story and the personal files, which is really cool. I think that's a really good step for the game, especially with how much money they're earning right now. Again, as seen in Sensory Tower. The anniversary has been like really successful, and I'm really happy with the game. Now I'll go with the next section. Okay, so like I said before, I think Snowbreak doesn't really have much competition in terms of like what type of game it is. So the two things that I want to talk about is how it's a third-person shooter and its assets per se. So let's talk about the third-person shooter first. Something that I actually didn't mention with the following clip afterwards. So I'm gonna do this quick cut here. So Nikkei is actually a game that I did not mention solely because it just left my mind. Nikkei is actually pretty close to Snowbreak, where it's a third-person shooter, but it's not an active action third-person shooter where you like move around and stuff like that. So it's not really there in terms of like fan service stuff like that. It's really similar, but it's 2D obviously instead of 3D. So the niches there still kind of is a little bit split, but compared to any other Gacha game, it's the closest thing that will compete with Snowbreak. And the other thing I actually want to preface is Snowbreak is a CN or China game, a Chinese game, sorry, and Nikkei is a Korean game, so they're a little bit different in terms of like their age ratings and stuff like that. So I'm more surprised how Snowbreak is instead of like something like Nikkei or any Japanese type game. But yeah, we'll just keep going anyways. Just keep Nikkei in the back of your mind. Now, I don't think I've actually seen a game that is a third-person shooter that's a gacha game, and it's basically just like waifu bait per se, right? Or it's not bait, but you get what I mean. It's Coomer bait. So I think Snowbreak has hit like the perfect niche that hasn't really been hit yet. I can't think of any. There are action games, right? So obviously, like there's Wuthering Waves, there is Genshin, there is, well, let's just even say Honkai Star Rail, where it's still 3D, right? And then there's Zenless Zone Zero, so on and so forth, blah blah, and future games like Azure Permelia. But like this game is a third-person shooter, which is a little bit different in terms of an action game. Still counts as action, though it's not a hack and slash action. It is, well, again, a third-person shooter. I'm gonna keep repeating that again and again and again. Sorry about that, but it feels like, I think if you like a shooter game and you love waifus, this is the game to go to because there's nothing else. There's nothing competing with it. There's no future games. I think there's like one, which I think is called Unending Dawn. No, it's something else, but there's one game that's doing a third-person shooter, and then there is a Valorant type game as well, which is Stranova, I think it's called, but I think that won't really compete with Snowbreak because that's more of a competitive game instead of like a gacha game. It's more like competitive to Valorant instead of Snowbreak because it's not really there. And I guess we'll talk about like how Coomer it is as well. So like I mentioned before about the skins and stuff like that. They've been changing a lot of ways for how the characters look. Obviously they're perceived as Coomer bait. And do I find it bad? No, I think it's like actually really good in terms of like they're really just full sending the niche. That from the live streams that they've been doing, from every video that they've been doing also, we know where they're going. They're going for fan service. More and more fan service. Just this game is full fan service, that's it. That's the goal of this game. This game is a harem, third-person shooter, Coomer fan service game that is also actually fun to play as well in gameplay. It doesn't have the best gameplay, but I think it's because it's a third-person shooter and there's nothing else really like this game. It makes it unique from any other game like PGR, WUA, ZZ, blah blah, so on and so forth with the famous freaking, even Fake Grand Order, right? So it's just like no game can compete with it because there's no game like it. And especially when this game is actually a Chinese game and there's not really many like full to this extent full like fan service Chinese game at the moment. Most of them are Japanese games, so yeah, I think Snowbreak has filled the niche really well. Okay, so I'm gonna be going over why this game is really easy. It's hell easy. So as you can see, I'm just doing dailies on the screen at the moment. I'm not doing it at the moment. It's just the recording, but you get what I mean. So dailies, super easy. Lasts only like a minute. You're just gonna see everything you should be doing, and then you just get the daily. The next thing I want to talk about is actually the endgame modes and the casual game modes. So there's plenty of casual game modes. So there's Star Master and any of the event game modes as well that are named casual. It does say on the actual thing, it says casual or something like that. Same with the endgame modes. Any of the event endgame modes will all say like challenge or something like that. So there are also permanent endgame modes where there is a roguelite, where sometimes there's also a raid. So when there is a raid, do that, and you get more prizes, more rewards, not prizes. And then there is the simulation, where you just fight 2 bosses and defeat it as fast as possible. And then the tower, where kind of similar, but it's a lot easier than the simulation. So there's plenty of stuff to do within the game. Again, it's really just a side game because that's how, you know, gacha games work, and it's just locked by stamina, though, except all the endgame and casual game modes are not locked by stamina, and I think about it. The only things is just grinding for your mats and stuff like that. So the other things I want to mention is it's so easy to get mats and stuff. I did a video on maxing your Snowbreak character, and I showed like the event shops you should be doing almost always. There are a couple of other shops that you should be doing as well. I might do another video for that, I'm not too sure, but all the shops pretty much just help you get your resources. You don't need to grind any of the, like, there's a section that you grind like nodes and stuff like that for specific items. You don't need to do that, just grind the event one and then get the whole shop, and then just keep doing that on repeat, and you probably just get most of it. Obviously that is still there if you do need it. Yeah, it's not really too useful. And the other thing I actually want to mention is the personal files. So the way that this game works, where you don't need to pull more than 1 character. So if you get a 5-star character, you can actually get fragments for free, 2 per day for 2 characters. So you'll get pretty much like, I want to say like once per month you will get a M1, and then it increases from there because you need to use more fragments anyways, though you'll get M6 eventually. I mentioned like I did get M6 Fenny Coronet and Wild Hunt for Lyfe. It's not too hard to get them to M6. The only problem is when other characters come out and you really want to max them out, and you're like, oh, which one should I prioritize? That's the only really problem, but it's not really too much of a problem anyways. And the last thing I actually want to mention is the free 5 stars. So right now we have Fenny Starshine, where she is a ballistic support. She is really good as a first character as well, just because she can buff herself to do ballistic damage, which is what you're going to be needing for story anyways. You don't really need anything fancy. There is also Anya Exuvia, which unfortunately she's not free anymore just because she is now out of her patch, but in the future it's going to be probably more 5 stars that are going to be free, hopefully. So in terms of that, it'll really help like a new player experience, just because there are free, you know, 5 stars, which are really strong. I'd argue those 2 supports are actually one of the few strongest supports, because one of them just does skill damage, which is Anya, and the other one does ballistic damage, which is Fenny. The last thing I want to mention actually is how they actually earn a little bit. I did mention before the monetization is mainly skins, so both of these characters actually have special skins for them, or they're interactable scenes, so it's just how they make money. Anyways, it's not really part of like it's easy to get into bit, but it's just worth a mention that that's like really how they're earning money. So I'll be going with one more section that I actually didn't mention, which is going to be the quality of life of the game. I think is really important, and how the devs and stuff like that, like how I mentioned in the WoW video that I did before. So we'll go to that now. So like what I mentioned in the last video, my WoW video, the most important thing. What is the most important thing? It is quality of life and the developers, how they communicate. So Snowbreak actually works at a worryingly really fast pace that is quite insane. So there are a few examples of that, like for one of them is Cherno getting Marisol to voice some of the parts when Cherno ults. You kind of will get it if you play the game. But that was super fast to be mentioned, and that was done super duper fast as well. And the arrangements happened like probably a month or 2, I believe. My god, that was by far the fastest things. Bug fixes, instantly fixed. So fast. Anything that's like criticism, so like the Labyrinth, where the raid at the moment actually had an insanity bar where I believe you couldn't play the game once you reached the sanity levels. You like clear the sanity levels and you can't play it anymore. Now that's gone, so you could just infinitely do that and just grind out the event there. The Star Master was actually pretty fast to be implemented as a mainstay game mode, which I think some CN players actually wanted, I believe. I could be wrong about that one. That one take with a grain of salt. But their communication, super fast as well. Mumu, their lead developer, like communicates with the community so often, mentions so many things, like There for Fenny, there was like Fenny wins. Oh yeah, Fenny's gonna be in the next patch. 100%. Now we have her. So that kind of stuff. There also the live streams that they have. They have like these weird live streams that are kind of sus. I would say, especially also they're actually like their Billy videos are also kind of sus. Some of them, if you really like fan service, Billy videos awesome. Some of them are actually on YouTube right now. There are actually some that got re-uploaded to YouTube as well. They're so good at doing the quality of life and communicating to the community. Like arguably the best that I've ever seen. Arguably worryingly the fastest I've ever seen, just because I'm scared that they're gonna overwork themselves and just burn themselves out. I hope that won't happen, but what they're doing right now is scarily fast and I do like it. But if they have fun, if they're doing it because they want to, good on them. I think they're doing a wonderful job. I think they're doing the best job that I have seen in a gacha, or no, any live service game I've seen. They're doing so good. And the last thing I actually want to mention is the direction that they want to go. So as I mentioned in the middle of this video, the start of this video, the direction. So from the very start, that they were this weird tactical third-person shooter game that wasn't really too fan servicey, and that changed because of EOS. So from there, I'm getting time and time again skins that are fan servicey. The units are turning more fan servicey. Everything is turning more fan servicey. We're turning more of a harem game. We're not. The story is completely changing. Well, it's not completely changing, but it's being highly adjusted. We're getting new voice actors in for CN because the other ones quit for reasons in the previous video I did. And then the whole story will be voiced. The personal files will be voiced. So many things will be voiced. So I'm really looking forward to that. Hopefully JP also voices the story. If it's only CN, well, okay. But I'll still use it because it's a lot better to have voices than not. But yeah, no, their direction that they're going is very steadfast and clear because of the communications they're trying to do. So like I mentioned before, Fenny wins. They're alluding that it's going to be a Fenny unit. Here we have a Fenny unit. So yeah, all in all, I think they're doing a wonderful job for quality of life. So now I'm just going to go to my very last section, which is going to be wrapping this video up. Okay, now to wrap this video up, what did we go over? We went over the changes, we went over how it's a niche game, we went over how it's a really easy game to play, and the quality of life is amazing, probably the best thing that this game has. All these things are really good for a gacha game to have, and I think especially the quality of life is really important. The gacha banners are also really good for a free-to-play player. I'm not free-to-play just because I spend on mainly costumes, though I don't think I've spent anything in terms of gems for a really long time to roll a character, like an absurdly long time. I think the last one was Haru, which is ages ago. I might have spent on one more character, I'm not too sure, but I believe Haru is the only one that I've kind of like spent into, and she actually sucks, which kind of sucks, but oh well. Anyways, so yeah, I think the gacha is really good. How casual the game is also good in a sense of like what this game is trying to be. It's really just trying to be this eye candy, fun, casual game, not really this try-hard game like WoWa is, and it's just going in a different direction to what WoWa is. Obviously, it is a fan servicey gacha game that is just fun and casual to play. That's all it is, and I think it does it to an incredible job, especially the fact that their lead developer, Mumu, again, does such an amazing job at just taking care of the game, taking care of the community, and the Reddit is also really good for the EN community. They take care of themselves really well, and they're not toxic or anything at all. They just are all players that like, you know, they're women. They're 3D. I can't even say 2D. They're 3D. So yeah, they love their waifus. That's really it. So if you liked the video, please give me a like. If there's anything you want to argue with me with, just put in the comments. I'll probably respond within a couple hours unless I'm sleeping. And yeah, subscribe if you want more. I don't know what I'm gonna do in the next video, but it's probably gonna be a Wuthering, or maybe a Snowbreak. Oh, I don't know, maybe a ZZ, or I don't know, anything that I really want to do, I'll be doing it. So yeah, thanks again for watching, and I'll see you guys next time. I'll see you later. Bye!